All right, let's do this. Ready for a deep dive into government RFPs?
RFPs, those things can be scary, right?
Well, that's what we're here for, to decode them.
Make them less intimidating.
So you can actually understand what's going on and how they're structured, what to look for.
Exactly. And to help us out, we've got this YouTube expert, Derek James, with some awesome insights.
Now, where do you even begin with an RFP? They can be massive.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
Well, Derek suggests starting with a checklist.
Ooh, a checklist.
He actually has one he walks through, which is super
Like
helpful.
having a roadmap, right?
Totally. And what I found fascinating is it kind of shows you what the government evaluators are looking for, too.
Like you're peeking behind the curtain.
Exactly. So this checklist, it covers, well, everything. Cover page, pricing, delivery schedules,
Oh, man.
even, what are those things called, representations and certifications?
There's a lot.
But here's the thing, not all those sections are equally important.
Right. Some are deal breakers, some are just formalities.
Okay, so one of the most important sections Derek talks about is the statement of work, the SOW.
The SOW.
For those of us who aren't, government contracting experts, what is that?
Think of it like the project's blueprint.
Okay.
Outlines all the work, any special requirements like security clearances, stuff like that.
I see.
Sets expectations for, well, everything, basically.
So it's kind of like the rule book, make sure everybody's on the same page.
Precisely.
But Derek does point out that SOWs can be really different in length.
Oh, yeah.
Some are short and sweet. Some are like, whoa.
Like reading a novel.
Exactly. So I think a good tip right off the bat is to kind of skim the SOW first.
Oh, that's smart.
To get a sense of how complex it's going to be.
Absolutely. Prioritize your time.
Exactly. Now let's get to what Derek calls the, quote, meat and potatoes of an RFP.
Right. The good stuff.
The things that really determine if your proposal is going to sink or swim.
Make or break it.
He calls them out as technical approach, past performance, and pricing.
Oh, the trifecta.
And these three, they're almost always what the government is looking at.
Even if the weighting might differ.
So if you're listening, thinking of submitting a bid, these are the areas you got to nail.
Absolutely crucial.
Like imagine a three-legged stool.
Okay. Yeah.
You need all three legs to be strong for it to stand right.
To be stable.
Same with your proposal. Strong technical approach, proven past performance, competitive pricing.
Got it. Makes sense.
So let's break down those legs. What does it even mean to have a strong technical approach?
Well, it's about showing off your expertise.
Okay.
Proving you really get the problem the government's trying to solve.
Right.
Articulating how your solution is going to, well, solve it.
Meet their needs.
And even exceed their expectations.
I like it. And past performance, that's all about showing. You've done it before.
You've walked the walk.
You got it.
It's your track record.
Right.
You want to highlight those wins, those accomplishments.
Show them you can deliver. Okay, so you've got the expertise, you've got the experience, but then there's the pricing.
Right, the money talks.
And being competitive on price, especially with the government, it's a big deal.
For sure, but it's not just about being the cheapest,
Oh, there's more to it.
There's definitely more to it. The government wants value for their money. And that brings us to those different evaluation approaches.
Right, and this is where things can get a little tricky.
Yeah.
Derek explains that there are two main ways the government evaluates proposals.
Two main ways.
Lowest price, technically acceptable, which they shorten to LPTA.
LPTA.
And then there's best value.
All right, so what's the difference?
Well, and why should we even care? What's the big deal?
Okay, so with LPTA, there's a catch. A lot of people miss this.
Okay.
You have to be technically acceptable first.
Meaning?
Meaning you've got to meet all the basic requirements in the RFP.
Okay, I'm following.
Then price becomes the deciding factor.
Ah, so it's not just about being the cheapest.
Nope.
You have to prove you can actually do the work.
You got it. So just undercutting everyone on price can backfire big time.
Because if you miss even one requirement, your low bid, it's out the window.
Gone. Doesn't even matter.
That makes total sense. All right, so what about best value then? When does the government use that?
Well, best value comes in when quality trumps being the cheapest.
Ah,
Like,
okay.
think about building a bridge.
Okay, a bridge.
You wouldn't just pick the cheapest builder.
I hope not.
You want the one that's going to build the safest, most durable bridge.
The one that's going to last.
Exactly. The one that offers the best value over time.
Makes sense. So with best value, the government's looking at the whole package.
Price and quality.
Right. Not just the bottom line.
Right.
So how do we even know which approach they're going to use before we start writing?
Good news is The RFP usually tells you. It'll be right there in the evaluation criteria.
So we got to read those carefully and tailor our proposal, right?
Absolutely. You got to strategize, focus on what matters most to them.
This is all making more sense now. Okay, so we've talked about that SOW, the big three, these different ways they evaluate proposals.
Laying the groundwork.
But how do we actually put all this into practice? When we sit down to write that proposal, where do we even begin?
Derek has this great saying, in order to write, you must read first.
Okay, meaning read the whole RFP.
Right.
But those things can be massive.
They can be. But try using that checklist as your guide.
So we're not just reading aimlessly, we're looking for specific things.
Exactly. Each item on that checklist, it's like a clue.
And as we're reading, we should be highlighting, making notes.
Absolutely. Jot down ideas, anything that sparks a thought for your proposal.
It's like we're already starting to write as we read.
Exactly. Another thing that can save you time is having templates ready.
Oh, templates, our listeners love those. Work smarter, not harder.
For common sections, your technical approach, past performance descriptions.
So we're not reinventing the wheel every time.
Exactly. But of course, you got to tailor them to each RFP.
Right, not just copy-pasting blindly.
You still got to show you understand their specific needs.
Makes sense.
Now, Derek does say, obviously, those larger, more complex proposals, those are going to take more time, even with templates.
Right, there's no magic bullet.
But the idea is the same. Understand that RFP inside and out, that's your foundation.
Okay, so we've got our checklist. We're ready to dig into that RFP and start taking notes.
Sounds good.
But what if something just isn't clear? Government documents, they can be pretty dense.
Oh, yeah. But don't be afraid to ask questions.
Really? We can do that.
Absolutely. Reach out to the contracting officer, get clarification.
So there are actual humans on the other side of those RFPs
Real people.
who want to answer our questions.
And often, they're happy to. It shows you're engaged, taking it seriously.
Right. It's not a test we have to figure out alone.
Not at all. And they want to see good proposals,
Makes their job easier, too.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked about that checklist, the SOW, the big three elements, all those evaluation approaches.
Lots to consider.
What else should we be thinking about with RFPs?
Well, Derek mentioned something that a lot of people forget.
Okay, what's that?
Building relationships
Relationship.
with those government agencies.
So it's not just about submitting proposals.
It's bigger than that.
It's about making connections, being a trusted partner?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Networking, attending industry events, even following them on social media.
Get your name out there.
It all helps you understand their needs, what they're looking for.
Just like any other business, right? Relationships matter.
They do. And it takes time, effort, but it pays off big time.
I bet. So we talked about all this prep work, but what about actually writing the proposal?
Writing.
Putting words on the page. Does Derek talk about that?
He does, but his main point is once you really get that RFP,
Got all the info, organized your thoughts.
then the writing flows.
Because the hard part's done.
You know what they want, you know your strengths, you understand how they're evaluating.
So you're not just starting from a blank page.
Exactly, you've got a solid base.
Right, so assuming we've done all that, any tips for making that proposal sing?
Derek's big on clear, concise language.
Keep it simple.
Ditch the jargon. Remember, you're trying to persuade these people,
Convince them you're the best choice.
so you got to communicate clearly.
No need to get all fancy with the wording, huh?
Nope, just get your point across.
It's kind of like storytelling, isn't it? Creating a narrative that shows what you can do.
That's a great way to put it. A good proposal, it tells a story.
Makes them believe in your solution.
Exactly. Now, I know this can be a bit overwhelming.
It is a lot to take in.
So many moving parts.
Is it even possible to master all this? Become an RFP guru?
Well, checklists and templates are great, but
But what? There's a but coming.
sometimes being too rigid, it can make you miss opportunities.
Okay. So, gotta be flexible too.
Absolutely. Sometimes you got to think outside the box, adapt to each situation.
No one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. And that comes with experience. The more you do this, the more comfortable you get.
So it's a learning curve, like anything else.
It is. And hey, remember, you're not alone in this.
Oh, good.
There are courses, workshops, whole online communities dedicated to government contracting.
People to help you along the way.
Exactly. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Okay, that's good to know. So, let's recap for a sec.
Big picture.
We've got that checklist, understanding the SOW, focusing on those big three technical approach, past performance, pricing.
And knowing how they evaluate.
Clear communication, building those relationships, and finding that balance between following a process and being adaptable.
A lot to remember, but I think the main point is
What is it?
submitting winning proposals, it's a skill you can learn.
It's not just luck or knowing the right people.
No, it's about understanding how it works, doing your homework, and crafting a proposal that really connects with those evaluators.
It's like almost an art form, wouldn't you say?
It is, and like any art, you got to practice. Be patient.
Refine your technique over time.
Exactly.
So for someone just starting out wanting to get into this, what would you recommend? How do they even begin?
Find some RFPs that fit your skills, what you're good at.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to start small.
Don't jump in the deep end right away.
Right. Even a smaller project, it's a learning experience.
You can get your feet wet.
Exactly. Get a feel for the process, that language they use, how it's all structured.
Build up that confidence. And remember, you don't have to do it all alone.
There are resources out there, people who've been there, done that.
Support systems.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It can seem a bit daunting at first, this whole government contracting thing.
It can.
But if you approach it the right way, put in the work.
It can be rewarding.
It can. And profitable.
Well, there you have it. Our deep dive into the wild world of RFPs.
We covered a lot.
Hopefully you're feeling a bit more prepared now, a bit more confident to tackle those RFPs.
Understanding how it all works.
We talked about that checklist, the SOW, those big 3 things.
Technical approach, past performance, pricing.
The importance of clear communication, building those relationships.
Finding that balance,
Between following the process and being flexible when you need to be.
Adapting.
But before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about.
All right.
Imagine you're on the government side. You're the one writing the RFP.
Flipping the script.
What would you emphasize? What's most important to you to make sure you get those really good bids?
Ooh, that's a good one. Makes you think about it from their perspective.
It does, right?
What would make me confident in the proposals I receive?
It's a good exercise, I think, as you're going through this whole process.
Absolutely. Helps you really understand what they're looking for.
And until next time.
Happy bidding.
Happy bidding, everyone.